No, sir, I don't like it.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to No Sir Pod. I'm your host, Carmen Morales. We're here to talk about things we don't like with people we love. And today is no exception. I'm joined with Mr. WonderBrett himself, Brett Feldman. Hi.
Hey, how you doing, Carmen?
I'm well. How are you? King of the cannabis community, I'd say. Huge fan. Long-time listener, a long-time caller. For a little bit of background, just in case if folks don't know, well, because now you're going nationwide. You're going across the country, which is this is a thrilling thing for me. But origin story: the company started in '97, but you were in the community way before that. And well, probably one of the coolest things, obviously, is you're the OG. You're the OG of the OG.
One of them. And just for clarity, I started growing in '97.
Okay.
And so I grew for a long time in the traditional market.
Mm-hmm.
And then the brand really started in like 2012.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, but yeah.
But you started in '97.
Yeah.
And that's before I'd say the industry caught up, the legality caught up, which is wild too, because you're also a family man. And a lot of times when people think of like people in this space, well, especially now, it's just like rich kids, tech bros, all of these like a completely different vibe, which is also one of the things I absolutely adore about you. You're a dad. You're a person. Yeah, you're a cool dude.
Thank you.
Which also I imagine at the beginning of this must have been incredibly stressful. Having to have that kind of, because that was the whole thing for me is, I went through my period of dabbling in distribution and stuff like that, but it was always because I didn't have any, let's say, overhead, or I didn't have anybody I had to keep alive, so to speak. So I imagine just having that extra pressure had to be a bit much.
Yeah. I don't know what I was thinking, like I was like, I just want to have a family, and and I really love my wife, and she's a great person. And I just was like, oh, I'm just so lucky to meet this person.
Mm-hmm.
And just having kids just seemed like, something that you naturally do after you've been married for like a year or two. You're like, and I always imagined myself as being kind of like a younger dad too. I didn't want to be like so old that I couldn't play with my kids. So I was like, oh, I want to.
The popping knees at the playground and stuff.
They still hurt though. I mean, literally, like I'm in my 40s and I'm like, my youngest daughter's 14 and my oldest daughter's 18. And I'm kind of one of the younger dads around when I go pick the kids up from school or we go to an event or something like that. And I like that, but it's you just don't realize how like the age this is going to catch up to everybody. And even when you hit your 40s, you're like, you can really feel it. You know, like
ow.
Yeah, like your 20s and 30s are pretty much, like
I feel like those are the 2 decades you could really do whatever you want.
Yeah. And you're in tune with like the world. It's like all of a sudden you look up and thank you. All of a sudden you look up and you're like, wow, I've kind of been in dad mode for like 10, 15 years or longer. And you're like out of touch, like the things I used to think were like cool and funny when you're young and single, like I just kind of like poor taste, just like just poor taste now. And then like the things that I think are so wait, family friendly.
When you were in the studio and stuff like that, doing all that, like the high risk stuff, I would say, because you were in studio with the 2001 Chronic, WonderBrett was present for.
Yeah, I didn't realize how blessed I was to be in those scenarios, how historic it was. I was a huge fan of rap and Dr. Dre, and but I had no idea what was being really created at that moment would be one of the most historic albums ever.
Yeah.
You're just kind of there. You're like, I'm just going to be quiet so I can be a fly on the wall, learn and pick up game from all this kind of stuff. And And it just ends up being like one of the most historic albums ever.
You're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
That's like feel like that's like being present. You're being present for like a monumental event, know, and one that's a cool one, not one that's, because usually when something's monumental, it's devastating, like being in New York in 2001. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's a completely different, there's usually a negative connotation with it, but that's a cool, like, that's so cool. But were you a dad at that time too?
No,
not yet. Okay. So that's okay. So it's all that was all pre-dad stuff.
I was still just a young kid, like probably just a little bit over 21 at that point. So
how does a 21-year-old get in a space like that?
I owe that to, I just kind of had like, I guess I had this good luck and a little bit of luck there, and then just I think just like a lack of fear or something, because I
21-year-olds fearless.
Yeah. I was just like, I saw Exhibit at this record store. That's how I got kind of introduced into that world. And I just like hit him up like, hey man, I'm like a big fan of your music, and I got a really nice jar of Kush in my car. Like, I'd love to gift it to you. And he was like, sure.
Of course.
I ran out to my car. I grabbed this jar. I put my phone number on the top of it, and like an hour later, he called me. He was like, come down to the video. We're shooting this video for the song called 2001. Or no, 2000. It wasn't 2001. It was 1999, actually. And the song was called The Year 2000. And, so I was just like, fresh back in LA from being in college at Humboldt. And I'd moved back down to LA, and I don't know, I just wasn't shy, I guess, in that sense of like kind of just rolling the dice and see if I could do something.
Is that what, like, is that what you're going to school for, to cultivate, or not at all? Or it was just something you were doing on the side?
I didn't know what I really wanted to go to school for. I mean, I had no clue. I didn't know how to sign up for classes. By the time I actually figured out, like, I have to go sign up for these classes, everything I wanted was taken, of course. And I ended up just like filling up with a bunch of electives and basic stuff. And I really was a terrible student. I wasn't a good student really in high school. And I was just too immature to understand that, like, hey, like when you're this young, like you need to do these things so that when you get older, your life is easier and you have more opportunities to be able to have options and go different ways.
Right.
So I left Humboldt after like 3 years with like a 1.5 GPA, basically. like they were like,
Daddy is not present.
Yeah, exactly. I had all these classes that were like, just incomplete or whatever it was that they'd give you because you just didn't show up enough, I got a few classes that I did where I did okay, like, film study or something, or sculpting, or archery.
Real futuristic stuff.
Totally. But I was like, I just wanted to party and have fun. And that's why
turns out there's a market for that.
Yeah, I didn't realize I was, setting myself up for this future industry. I mean, I was just a huge weed person. That's why I went to Humboldt. I actually had a baseball scholarship to go to Arizona State, but I was like, there's no way I could go there. I'm just too much of a pothead. I'll get kicked off the team once they give me a drug test, and then I'll get arrested and be in jail in Arizona for like 20 years if they bust you with a seed back then.
Yep. Yeah, that was when I remember hearing those horror stories, like people in Montana getting a dime for a dime bag. So all these crazy things, or getting like threatening to get life in prison and stuff like that for having so it was insanely terrifying. And I mean, that's got to be to see where we are now, it's got to be wild. So you were like, I could play baseball or I could smoke weed.
Yeah.
And weed won.
Oh, totally. I was chasing the best weed wherever it was. I was like, that's where I'm going. And Humboldt at that time, and still today, even Humboldt is known for having great weed. So the whole state of California kind of has its own little pockets and micro, climates and different areas of where great weed was coming from, like in parts of San Diego, LA.
Same with food. I mean, it's just got good soil, and there's varying enough temperatures to grow a bunch of different shit. So it makes sense. It makes sense for that. If you want to talk about something that I don't like about the cannabis industry, though, is I don't like that. Man, I didn't want to get into this early, but I can't. It's like yelling at me. Is the THC wars, the percentages. I feel like it's bullshit. I miss a lot of the old strains. And it was just because it was for variety. It's the same thing. Like, people want to roll back DEI, but it's like diversity in all things, diversity in genetics, diversity in experience. And now it just seems like everybody's cloning the same thing just for the numbers. And people like it, but then I mean, I've talked to a couple of people where they're like, but it just doesn't sell enough. Like, there's not enough people that think about it the way that I think about it for it to be profitable, which is sad. It bums me out. Yeah,
it's like I think it stems from California being a state where the traditional market has existed for a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
So you had all these educated stoners, and I think that's the group of people that are like yourself and myself that all smoked weed based off of just like, how good does it look, how good does it smell, and how good does it taste, and how does it make me feel. And then you have this whole new class of people that kind of came into it later,
post data. I would say once we started being able to have enough research for you to know about it, then everybody started nerding out. Well, it was like, well, I like this, but and you could get more and more specific, which I also appreciate too, because now I am that snob where I'm like, what is this? Where is this from? I'm asking all of those questions, but I want to roll the dice, I'd still be willing to try something I'd never tried before. It's not like I'm just looking for the same thing over and over again. And I know a lot of people are, when they're like, once I figure out the high that I want that forever. And I think that should be able to exist. But I also think the people who like a sampler platter, man, the people who like a little fucking variety.
Yeah, it's just the trend right now, like this time we're in with it, where it's kind of a marketing tactic for shops and bud tenders to be like,
but you could get this one. This one's testing this. And
it's like 30%, 40% THC, this THC war or whatever you want to call it. But
that's what I've been called. I don't know what it's called, but
it's a good title for it, where it's really just sales tactics for a lot of uneducated consumers coming in that think that number really means something. And they walk in and they ask the bud tender, what's the best weed? And the only metric these bud tenders really kind of go to is these numbers. And those numbers really don't reflect anything in the
the feeling or the taste.
Exactly.
So it's those four categories: what it looks like, what it smells like, what it tastes like, and the experience. In those four things, the number is just
a number.
It's just a number.
It has no real representative value to experience or anything like that with how the weed actually smokes, how it was grown and cured, and the breeding behind it, and how the effects are. Those numbers just have there's nothing there. Those numbers are really only good for some sort of scientific study of something, for maybe a deeper layer of medicinal, or potentially for people that are extractors, like hash extractors, so that they can go, wow, when I extracted this, I got a 18% return on this pound of hash. And when I did the testing on the THC, it says it's a 25% strain. So is there something being left on the table that I'm not getting in this? Or is that 25% test just kind of bullshit? And the real numbers are what you can get out of the extraction, when you look at it that way. So it's just it's just a weird phase where it's an evolution of this industry.
I'm so glad you said that it's a phase. I hope so.
It will, because it's just I think, it takes a while for people to be educated smokers for a long time. I just think if you compare it to like wine or alcohol, like anything of
Mhm.
quality, most people, actually, I would bet money that no one's walking in who's like a wine connoisseur and being like, which bottle has the most alcohol in it? You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
That's a great way to put it. You're like, no, I want something that smells good. I
Yeah.
want something that tastes good, and I want a good experience.
Yeah.
Wine's harder when you look at it, but you got to look through it through the light and all that stuff. It's the same kind of idea. So it's just like, because I've been a fan since I was 14. I've been on board.
Yeah, wine has that point system, like
Mhm.
96 points or 100 points is like the perfect score. When you look what they're rating it on, none of it has to do with some sort of analytical laboratory test.
Yeah.
It all has to do with the experience and the taste, the flavor, the whole,
Yeah, it feels like it's like a flying too close to the sun. It's like an Icarus point where we're like getting so nerdy about it that you're losing your wings, which is the 4 main categories that it matters. Like there's one that like, because sometimes it's too much. So to me, it seems like a waste. Like I'm not that kind of, if once I'm I'm going to say no because I'm done. I've achieved the thing I've tried to achieve. I'm not a habitual, I guess. And so, sorry. So then once there's a couple of strains that I think they test in the 20s and it's perfect amount because it's not too much and you can still be creative. You can still, it's delightful.
Yeah.
Is there anything, because I mean, you've been here for the whole evolution of it. Is there anything that's happened that you don't like? I guess how the cannabis industry has evolved or devolved in certain ways.
How much time do we have? I mean, it's crazy. There's a lot about it that is, I don't like the evolution of certain things. Definitely, like, I feel like the rec market had a lot of promise before it kind of started, but it's really just led to like this commercialization of the plant, and I guess that was an inevitability that, just what was going to happen. And I was maybe naive to that. I think I had more hope and ideals or, that it would be something more pure in that sense, and that other people would see things the way that I see it. But it really, it's just, I think for a lot of people, the evolution, the things that I don't like the most is that it just has evolved to a price war in the sense of like, I just want more for less, like I just want, at first I think people they were like, man, a $300 ounce, that's like so expensive, but like you'd get a really quality ounce.
Yeah. So you wouldn't have to smoke as much because you get to where you wanted to get quicker. So it would last you longer.
Yeah. And normally it'd be like a better experience, like the way it tasted, like the creativity aspects, like all of these things.
Well, yeah, somebody that actually cares about how it tastes. I mean, that was always something that was like, I mean, what I liked about what you make is there's a genuine it's not like as some of the, I just remember smoking just when it was weed in cellophane bags and it would be like, it tastes like this, and I was like, oh, this is the same stuff they just spray on paper to make things taste a certain way. I don't know what I'm smoking because I don't know what the fuck you put on it. I don't know if it's food safe at this point, because there's no regulation. So I have no idea, but it just tastes like I'm smoking a grape flavored cigarette. Yeah. And so then you lose the taste of the weed. Like a lot of the stuff they would put on it to make it taste a certain way. And, but that's the whole thing, is the creativity, the thoughtfulness, is you care. And I think part of the disservice to me is I thought weed people were going to care. And a lot of them don't.
No, yeah, absolutely. Like, and it's just a different, that segment of the market is huge, that like those over the top flavors that are, somewhat artificial. I mean, they are artificially being sprayed on or through like a process where they put it in this machine that then where it absorbs the weed. Weed is like a sponge. Yeah.
That's why environment matters so much.
Yeah.
So then you just spray this crap on it and you're like, okay, but there seems like there might be something cool under it. Yeah. Under this.
Yeah. Weed just absorbs everything that's kind of around it. That's why like back in the day, like when you were like, oh, I got to take this weed on vacation and put it in my, luggage or whatever it is.
In my toiletry bag. And then you're like, why does this weed taste like soap?
Yeah, exactly. Totally. Like, and something like that would ruin your weed and you'd be so mad. You're like, this weed tasted amazing. And now it tastes like perfume. Or like, like someone who messes up and like just puts it like near a candle and you're like, like, man, this thing tastes so chemical now. And, but there's a whole segment of people out there that like, they grew up on all of these like really, like candy flavored nicotine vapes.
Yep.
So they like this, like these flavors that taste like candy. And then someone in the weed game was like, oh, let's try that over here. And I think it really like tapped into this whole segment of people that like that. It's not something that I personally want, for myself, but in this business, and consumer's always right. Even if we're talking about like a restaurant or whatever, customer's always right. So whatever they want, if that's the trend,
you gotta provide it.
Yeah, people got to try to provide that. We can try to hold the ground and be like, no, we're purists. We're only going to provide something that's really what we like and what I like, and that shrinks your ability to grow your brand.
Yeah.
So it's a balance between your own personal integrity of your brand and business,
staying afloat. Yeah.
And that is no easy task.
No.
Like in any business realm, but you put those conditions in California with cannabis taxes being crazy high, mass overproduction of the plant itself. So you either have to play the game to survive a little bit and try to keep your integrity, and maybe look at it in a different way, where this line is our premium luxury style of how we want it for ourselves. And then here's the stuff that the masses are kind of asking for. So let's try to make something that we're proud of to offer that to the masses in that sense when it comes to a category like that. Either you choose to do something like that or you just choose not to. It's really just about like, what's your goal in this space, and are you, it's really hard to survive. So we've been forced to play that game in certain ways, because if we don't, you just can't make it in this space right now. When you look at the numbers and says, well, this type of product SKU is selling the most in this industry, and we could sit here with our arms crossed, with our heads and our nose up high, being like, we're too good.
As a person who's doing that in the stand-up space, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah,
because that was the whole thing. Is I felt there's a parallel happening in entertainment with the cannabis, and like in that the middle class of it is being gutted, which a lot of times that is where the creativity gets to lie, because you're doing enough to survive, and now you have a little bit extra where you could fuck around and do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, I feel like, where the sweet spot is, where you're not just always thinking about how do I get the most out of each customer. It's that, plus you can still be a little, I would say, European about it, where you still give a shit about not just the money, even though we're in a capitalistic society. But it does feel like that area is being called out. And albeit like being difficult for you to maintain your licenses, or be difficult to, and it's the same thing as a comedian who is not already in the 1% of comedians, versus somebody like you could do it for free. You could grow your own, and you could do that. And you could also, if you're running, but the people in the middle that are like, okay, but I really want to do this. I'm selling this to so I can get to do this. And those people, I feel like, keep getting the shaft, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, in many ways, my only goal in the space was to make the best product that I possibly could and share it with everybody.
In comedy was to just be the best. Like, I was never motivated by pussy or whatever, and fame. That part wasn't the cool. I just wanted to be fucking the best. Dude.
Yeah,
I wanted to be really good at this.
It's all that matters. And you would go, okay, if I have 20 lights, I need to produce as much as I can from those 20 lights to stay afloat and make a little bit of money and have a life. And all you had to worry about was selling whatever was produced from those 20 lights. And, then it becomes very like, you fast forward a few years, and through the medical process, like you start to see these mega grows start to pop up where you're like, these guys have 100 lights.
Holy shit.
200 lights, 500 lights, 1,000 lights. Like, you're like, where's...
I call that the rich kid effect, dude. That's when it happened. You know what I'm talking about? Where these
Yeah.
kids, they came in, it was like their way to be rebellious against their conservative parents or what have you. They would rent these houses out and they would grow all this weed, or they rent these huge spaces out that were just like, how did you even have access to that? Because their dad owns the building or their dad's friend. You'd get all these weird hooks, and then there would just be these people with this huge leverage being able to now sway the market just because of how much they have.
Yeah, it's definitely surprising how many like landowners and business, like people that own buildings, just converted into this industry because they were sitting on a building, that they were using for like a, furniture or for, whatever other business they had going. And they go, you know what, let's just like cut this space in half, build this wall. And yeah, my kids, friends can all grow in this side of the building, and we'll run our original business over here. And it became just, those were the people that had the access.
Yeah.
Because guys like myself, I started growing with 3 lights in an apartment, and then was like, thought I was king of the world when I got my first house to grow in,
Yeah.
And I was like, I can set up 10 lights in this master bedroom, or, or 10 lights in this garage, like that's just where it, because of how like the risk of it all at that time, like, you couldn't go big, you had to keep it small. Otherwise you were either going to get robbed or you were going to get arrested. So you just, how much was your ability to, to take risk, was, what was your what were you comfortable with in that sense? And so for me, I was just always like, I just want the best weed. I want the best strains. And that's why I would chase, great strains up north in California or Northern California, like Humboldt, or I would chase a strain down in San Diego or Orange County. There's certain strains that through the late 90s through the 2000s, like you had these pockets of really good home growers that would put out, that's what they grew.
You'd smoke it and be like, what is this?
Yeah.
This is new.
Yeah.
Who's going on? Who's doing this stuff?
Exactly. Yeah. It was like I grew Kush and a few other guys grew Kush, like that. Josh D and these guys that brought the strain into California. I was fortunate to end up getting the cut that they had brought, and that I became known for that. Within the rap community in LA from Exhibit and Dre and those guys around there. But other guys in like San Diego, they were growing, Bull Rider and Northern Lights, and you go up north and you'd be Skunk and Calio and just other strains that were really good, Champagne. And so we would go trade our Kush for those strains, or just go buy it or whatever it is, because we just wanted to have variety. It's like the Kush is one of the greatest strains ever, created, but even, the greatest thing, you can get tired of it and want something different. Like if whether, you think sushi is the greatest thing and you're like, I could eat sushi every day. Well, go try and do that. And
at some point, you're going to want a chicken nugget, or you're going to want a piece of pizza. You're going to want something else. Well, I feel like that also, again, it goes back to the variety thing. Once I come back to it, and then I go, oh, baby, I missed you.
Totally.
This is nice.
Yeah.
It was, I always felt that way about weed in general too, where I set it down just because I loved it enough. I wanted to appreciate it again. I never wanted to abuse it. I like you,
Yeah.
So I would make myself take breaks. So when I come back, I'd be like, baby girl, I missed you so much.
I didn't have that self-control. I was more of like, this weed isn't getting me stoned. I have to go find some other type of weed. You know what I mean? Like, because you build a tolerance to it. And
of course.
I was definitely someone who would, overindulge, push it to the limit. Like, we would smoke joints all day. We would go to a party and we would just start lighting up joints, and we would just knock a whole party out. And I stopped doing that after a while, because I just felt bad, because I was like, my buddy invited me over to this party, and it just turns
into a sleepover. Everybody's just passed out.
Everybody's having a good time. They're drinking. They're like, listen to music. And then like an hour later, you look around and you're just seeing like couple after couple are like, hey, we're going to take off.
We're going to go.
Yeah.
One of them's barely has their eyes open.
Totally.
I think we're going to head out.
Yeah. I didn't drink much. So I had like, I just had a strong tolerance for weed, and my enthusiasm to share that with everybody sometimes, led to people that weren't as, stoners in that same way. They like,
I probably would have ended up leaving too. Either
it
that or you
ended
would
their
find
night.
me.
They're like 20 minutes, 30 minutes later, they're like, I got to go home. I can't handle this, like the weed's too strong. And I would just be like, or you get a call the next day, like from your buddy, like, hey man, I know it's probably not, with the case, but like, like Claire and Brian said like,
Is there anything else in it?
Yeah, it was like, was that weed laced or something? And you're like, no, dude. I'm like, they just don't know. They've never had that type of weed before, and that was a thing that happened, which is kind of, I'm definitely older, so it just dates me in this sense. But like you see now, all these new consumers coming into the market, their starting point from what they're getting for flower now is so much higher of a quality, even though it might be a commercial top shelf grade.
Yeah.
It's such a different experience, because when we first started smoking weed, like you were lucky if you could get weed that was green and didn't have seeds and stems. Like you had to have a really good connection to get that. And it was hard to get like good indoor grown or good quality, chronic or whatever, indica or whatever the names that were being used at that time to describe quality. Everybody could easily call a friend and be like, yeah, I get you an ounce of stress, no problem. Like, and it would be like, $100 ounce full of seeds and stems. And you'd spend half the time just trying to sort the weed out.
Yeah, I just get the part that was the good part. I mean, if it wasn't for seeds, I would have never tried to grow myself. That's what had happened. A closet and a light, and just to see what happens, you know? So I there is a part of me that is appreciative of it. Yeah. Because I think a lot of people were like, what if I put these two things together? What does that do? Yeah. And I think that's cool. But at the time, as a consumer, it was trash. Yeah. It was trash. Plus, you'd never know. I mean, it was better here, but I mean, I was in Florida, dude.
Totally. So yeah, Florida didn't have good weed at all.
No, not at all. And anybody that would get pinched so easy. Yeah. I remember seeing on the news how they found out about people. Like there was a dude renting a house, and it was because they flew over and did the thermal, and they saw that this house was beaming so hot. They're like, this is suspicious. And I was like, fuck. So you'd have to be the one house in Florida that has a basement where you can fucking try to get this heat out of here somewhere or vent it out. Like you had to be so creative just to get it done, let alone to be able to think about the quality of it.
Yeah, so, they didn't have air cleaners, like now you have these charcoal air filters that will knock the smell down in a big way. Back in the day, like we were dumping like bags of manure and on the front lawn, and like, burning like candles and cooking like chili and onions and anything we could
anything
do
to smell it, coffee, anything to get the smell out. Yeah. And then, and then you would go to jail for 15 years or whatever the fuck, just for trying to grow, for having a garden, essentially. Yeah. Yeah. So it's a completely different, it's a completely different world.
But at the same time, with that progression, like we went through that progression of like, okay, this is garbage weed, but I'm like, it's still getting me stoned. So I'm like, this is all we got. And then we got good weed, and we were like, oh my God, this is so drastically better. You have a different appreciation for it. So we evolve that way. Now you have all these consumers that have walked into stores the past 8-10 years, and there is no bags of seeds or stems or any of that crap. It's just like their starting point is probably what we considered the best at that time.
Yeah,
depending what circle you had, and now that's the starting point. So I think it's harder for them to become like a connoisseur of great weed, because of like,
you're starting from a lot of great weed. How do you pick here? Then you would have to be, all of your picks would be nuanced. It'd be like, I don't know. I mean, there's ones where like I can smoke half a joint and go, no.
Yeah. You're
or not even a couple of hits in and just go, this isn't going to be good. This isn't what I'm looking for.
Yeah. And there's a lot of, they call it mid tier stuff. And then you have like the top shelf, which is like kind of like
what's separating them is like how much
price and packaging.
That's it?
Literally, because
it's not the amount of trichomes or the fact that it's the tippy tips or anything.
Nah, like
That explains why I have
yeah.
bought cheap weed here at some point and been like, this is nice, actually.
Yeah, no, there's some like it's just like the once you get to a certain point of quality, again, I'll go back to the wine analogy, is like you go buy a $25-$30 bottle of wine, you're like, this is pretty fucking good. You know, like, and this is much better than that $5 bottle or $6 bottle of wine that I was drinking before. And you can tell the difference. When you go from $30 to $60 the bottle of wine, like it takes a very skilled consumer to really tell the difference of these things. Like, is, you know, this $30 bottle really, or this $60 bottle really that much better than the $30 bottle, or is it the marketing behind it and the you know, the farm and their vineyard that it came from and how they were able to position themselves with their business model, in the sense of, we're only going to produce this limited amount and we're going to market it this way, and it's going to be hard to get, and we can push the price up and make this higher tier. But is it really that much better of an experience of a $30 bottle of wine, where you think, you know, you should be spending double the money, or $100 bottle of wine? That's gonna be a
harder justification for me. It's gonna, like, I guess then it's gonna be way more nuanced. It's gonna be like, I don't like this oak flavor.
Totally.
I don't like this one. I don't like when they put too many berries in it. Like, it would have to be something that specific, where it's like, again, if you're going back to the 4 categories, the $30 is going to be smell great, it's going to look great, it's going to feel great, it's going to have all of those things.
There's a lot of good products out there that are just you know, good enough to where people are like, this is good enough, I'm happy. Like, it doesn't leave them yearning for the need to go, what is out there that's better?
Yeah.
Right. So it takes a certain personality, and that personality, I think
that's where you get to the nerds. That's where you're like, I want something more specific than this.
Yeah.
That's how you get the niche. And then I think that's where you get that goes back to what we were talking about, like making what the market wants and making what you specifically want. Like, you know, as a person who consumes like way more than I would, you would notice those differences way more than I would. You would notice those, like, this, I like this. Yeah. And I mean, but with as nerdy as we've gotten about it, I get to be like that going into it. You know, I know these, I like these flavors, I like this experience. So then I can tell the bud tender what I want, as opposed to them telling me what I want. I hate when people do that. It's the same thing, like you go to a restaurant and you're like, what do you recommend? Lady that works here, you know, sure, they could give you the, you know, don't do the chili. The cook puts his nuts in the chili, don't do the chili. But they're, how the fuck do they know what you like?
Yeah, no, they've never hung out with you. They
don't know.
Yeah. They don't know if you love spicy food or hate spicy food, or, you know, or don't like red meat or whatever it is. Yeah, the bud tenders, the people that walk in there that don't know what they're looking for, they're definitely getting steered in a direction that whatever the shop owner is telling the bud tenders to do.
Yeah.
They're like, I got this really good deal on this from this brand, and we make the most money in this. So when people say this, push them towards that. And sometimes, you know, you have bud tenders that are, you know, they're not connoisseurs themselves. They fancy themselves as connoisseurs because they work in a store that sells weed.
Yeah.
And they love weed, but it doesn't really mean that they really know what's what.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the same with, like, you know, a lot of restaurants too. Like, a lot of people that run restaurants or open restaurants have no business in starting or opening a restaurant, because
they don't care about food or dining or hosting or any of the things that are required in that.
Yeah, exactly.
Their dad just owns a building that's next to a building. Yeah. And they have a buddy that's a chef, and that's it. And it's just a venture, a business venture.
Yeah, somebody in their family, or it was giving the money to them or whatever, that goes,
oh man, you see that shit on Kitchen Nightmares all the time, where
totally.
That's who he's always yelling at. He's always yelling at a kid of somebody that cared about the thing, and the kid doesn't care about the thing.
Totally. Yeah. It's like, I grew up in a catering business. My dad, you know, he had a deli and the catering business at the same location. And so quality and food was like everything to us, and that whole experience to give to people, that's how I kind of, you know, got all my inspiration for what to do with my own brand and that what I wanted to create it, or what I wanted to create. But, you know, there's a lot of people like, you know, that grow up in that space, and they get left to, you know, some kind of family business, and the kids have no love or passion for it, and they don't really respect it too, because they don't know what it took to create that and get it off the ground. It was just like,
That's the same with the consumers.
they're
They
just
don't
born
know.
into it. They're just born
Yeah.
into it. This is what their reality is from when they were, however they got into it. And
Mhm.
it's like, a lot of people don't understand or appreciate a lot of the things that their parents created. It's just, they all want to be their own person. They want to do something different, and they want to sing or whatever. You know what I mean? I want to dance, Dad. You don't understand. That's why I love food, and I love cooking food, but it was never my passion to
Mhm.
be like, I want to, keep this sandwich shop going, for my whole life. It was like, I
Mhm.
really, when I discovered weed, I was like, this is it for me. Like, I love weed and all of these other.
You saw that, but I think there's something to be said about seeing the passion in it when you're like, okay, you want to get this done. This is something that's in you that you have the heart for, and you can see when somebody's doing something that they genuinely enjoy or give a fuck about. And so then you're like, when you find the thing that makes you feel like you should do that, I think seeing it is like, oh fuck, this is it.
Yeah.
I know what this is. So
Yeah.
I'm committed. I'm in.
Yeah.
And I think it makes it easier when you have that example to find the singing, so to speak, or
Yeah.
whatever. And
sometimes I feel really bad for the people that's never happened to them.
sure.
Like, they're just kind of like wandering through life, and nothing or no opportunity or person as a mentor or like an influence on them has, triggered that part of them, or
Mhm.
if they've had zero ability to act on it.
Yeah.
You
Or
know,
resources or life. Whatever.
Yeah.
Something's cock blocking you from achieving it or
Corporate.
getting to it or finding it. Yeah.
The system,
that's-
the system of corporate America
Yeah.
is like, you don't get to have time to figure out life. You
Yeah, no,
better
no, no,
get
no,
to
no.
work.
Yeah.
Otherwise you'll be homeless and hungry. You
Yep.
know, like, that's just the
Yeah,
way
keeping
things
people
are
in a
structured.
survival mentality. Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, I think the only reason I even found mine was my willingness to be homeless. My willingness to be like, because once I did it, and once that was like, it was not only like, for me, it was not only a feeling of like passion, like, oh, this is it for me, but it was also it was fulfilling in a way that like I'd never felt understood the same that I felt understood, and that's always what I'm seeking.
Yeah.
So it was like one of those things for me where it was just like, oh, this is forever till I'm dead. I don't care what happens.
Yeah, you found your people.
Mhm.
You're like, this
And
is
then
it.
there was like, I think that willingness to be like, I don't care, fuck it. But again, you doing that with a family, wild.
Yeah. No, I think it is just naive,
Sure.
just like
I think that too.
ignorance of reality at some level. Like,
Mhm.
to think that I could juggle it the way I was juggling it, keeping it a secret from majority of my family and my wife's family,
Mhm.
them not knowing what I did for, like, truly what I do and what I did for up until the pandemic.
Jesus Christ, that's
You
so
know,
wild to me.
Yeah,
Wow.
so it's like, I was living a double life in many ways and trying to keep these two things going. So I built a recording studio because I loved making music, and that was one of my other passions. And so I just told everybody I was working in the studios always.
Mhm.
And I spent
Well,
all
that's
my
good. At
time.
least there's something.
Yeah,
Like-
and that was inspired from being around like guys like Drake. Because when I always played guitar, as a kid and through high school, and when I was around all these incredible musicians and seeing them like produce music, write music, actually getting a look into the world of how music is written. Because to me, it was like
seeing behind the curtain, so to speak, like all the mechanics behind it, of course.
Yeah. I never really understood it. I was
Mhm.
like, I played an instrument and I could write a chord progression or something like that, but I never understood. It just seemed like magic to me how four people could play in a band and be so talented together and have this really locked chemistry.
Mhm.
And then someone could write these amazing, lyrics that are poetry over it that would just touch you in such a powerful way that, especially when you're younger, music is everything to you. It's your whole identity. It's how you dress. It's how you think. It's like the music that you listen to really sculpts your personality.
I think that's also why it represents huge chunks of your life,
Yeah.
especially like for me, there was a pop punk era,
Yeah.
there was a rap rock era, there was my folk era, like all of these things, like me discovering all these different kinds of pockets of music was definitely influencing my personality at that time.
Yeah, I think I have my daughters and I see it so clearly, like as I'm older and I'm like, oh yeah, like this is that same playbook that I remember they used on me, and now the music industry has changed. It's not, tape cassettes and CDs. It's all streaming and TikTok, and like most of the music that my youngest daughter and even my older daughter that they get introduced to, it's not from radio or what is on. It's what somebody on TikTok blew up doing a dance to this song, and then that's
15 seconds. So those, like all of those things that end up getting shared and reshared, it's just somebody playing an ad for a song, a 15-second ad for a song.
The best 15 seconds.
Yes,
too.
the best 15 seconds of it. Because sometimes I go and I was like, oh, that's catchy. I'll go and listen to the whole thing, and I was like, oh, this is the only good part of the fucking song.
Yeah.
It's like when a movie ruins itself by putting the best parts in the trailer. I was like, oh, I know who the killer is. It's the grandma. Done.
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many times where I've watched a trailer for a movie and I'm like, I've saw the whole movie just now.
You just told me the whole plot.
I definitely don't need to watch that.
No mystery.
Yeah. The best movie experiences I ever had was going into the theater not knowing shit about the movie at all. Like when I went and saw Pulp Fiction in the theater, I never saw a trailer for it. I had no idea what the story was about. None of my friends did either. They're just like, I heard this movie was really good. And we all went and we were all fucking blown away. Yeah, we were like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. Like nothing, no spoilers to ruin it all. And now it's just like, that's everything is they're like, how can we spoil it? And,
how can you know so much about the movie, how it was made, all that stuff before you go see it? Yeah, it's almost like they turned how the sausage was made into marketing for the sausage, but a lot of people are turned off by how it's made. You know? Sometimes I just want to eat the sausage, man. I don't need to know everything about it before.
Yeah, it ruins the experience.
Yeah.
It definitely does. It's like, again, going back to music too, like I'd see a band, and be like, that's amazing. Like those guys are just killing it. And then you maybe you get to know those guys a little bit more, and you're hanging out with them, and you're starting to go to their practices, and you're like, oh, this is how you guys do this, and then it devalues what the performance is for the final project or final product when you see it. So it's like, it's like a magician showing you the magic trick, and you're like, fuck, dude, I thought that was so amazing until you just told me like how simple that is, and it like,
oh, there's a piece of fishing line that I didn't see. Oh, okay, well,
yeah, or it's just like the trick all happened in like this one little split second before the trick really even happened. It's like they show you a card, they put it somewhere without you noticing it, and then like the next 30 seconds is all just like
fluff.
Yeah, like
to
filler
you, stuff. Yeah,
they're just like toying with you, like you're just. And you're just like, this dummy is like, yeah, this is, what's he going to do? And how's this going to work? And then at the very second, they're like, bah, you're like, wow. But the second they show you how they did it, you're like, oh, I'm an idiot. Like, and you just kind of feel dumb. You're just like,
well, that is one of the things I always love. Like the example for me would be like the Amazing Jonathan. He would ruin all of them, but were always like the bits. He would create bits to ruin things and make fun of us about how dumb we were. Like that that meta commentary. Oh, that scratches a really big comedy itch for me. But it was like, I was never a big magic person as it was. Because I always knew it was tricks.
Yeah.
And so when he was doing it, to me, it was like, oh, that's fun. It's a fun way to approach it by tricking us and then showing that it's a trick.
Yeah.
But I would still watch that again, though.
When you layer that comedy in there, it's a totally different thing.
Yes.
But
just being like, I just tricked you with nothing, with no commentary about it. It just, well, now I feel foolish. I'm not going to give you money now.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I was ever thinking about it in that sense, but it would always be like the guys that where they're what's impressive about magic is when they're telling you that they're doing it and you still can't catch it.
Yes.
The guys that are really good with the sleight of hand or taking your watch off your wrist or whatever it is, like where there's this real skill to it that they're so good they can tell you what they're doing and you still can't catch it. To me, I'm like, okay, props. Like here's a little golf clap for you, like you fucking are dangerous. You can't play at any of the card games I play at. Like I don't trust anything that you can do now because you've got some kind of superpower that is beyond my perception, even when you're blatant about it. So
I went to the Magic Castle. One time I went to the Magic Castle, there was a dude doing that, and it was the most, because I love a ballsy, I love a risk, obviously, I love a risk taker, and to see, for those who don't know, there's a place here in Los Angeles called the Magic Castle where it's like owned and run, and it's magic shows all night. It's like where all the magicians, every magician who's ever wanted or been successful in any way, they always want to be at the Magic Castle. You can't go, there's like usually a 3-month wait list unless you're invited by a magician. You have to be invited by a magician to get in. And so while you're there waiting for the magic show to start, they'll have magicians doing cards, so sleight of hand stuff, all this stuff. And there was a dude there, and there was probably like 9 of us all watching him, and he was doing exactly that. He's now you're gonna think, and you're gonna pick this card, and you're gonna keep wanting to look at this card, but you shouldn't, because over here, like, and he's just showing you, and I'm telling us how he's fucking tricking us right in front of our face.
Yeah, and you still can't catch it.
I still can't fucking figure it out.
Yeah.
I was like, this guy, he's a source. This isn't a magician. He's a sorcerer.
Absolutely.
Get him the fuck out of here.
This is wizardry.
Yes.
I've been in Magic Castle, and one of my cousins is a magician, and that's how I got to go there. And he's pretty good at the sleight of hand stuff. And the Magic Castle is awesome. It's a fun place to go for a date or with a group of friends or whatever. It's an experience. Like if you've never been, you got to go at least once.
Yeah.
And just kind of, it's Houdini's old house, right? And they have a pretty good restaurant there for food if you want to eat, and then all these little magic shows, and
there's
wander
a bunch
through the
of
house.
There's like the painting's eyes follow you, and there's a bunch of secret places to hide, and there's all these it's definitely an experience. If you ever come to LA, Magic Castles is one of those things.
It's definitely something you got to do once.
Yeah,
I agree.
Way better than fucking Madame Tussauds Wax Museum or whatever the fuck.
That shit doesn't even look like the people they say that like this is a wax figure of somebody. You're like, that doesn't like. Who the fuck's dude? That,
you know what it looks like? It looks like an AI generated version of a person.
God.
It's so
like
bad.
that sat out in the sun for like and melted. It's like, you're like, it doesn't even look like Obama. You're like, this is awful.
Have you ever seen Obama?
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck that. Go to the Magic Castle.
Yeah.
Is there anything about being a dad that you have not enjoyed?
Ooh. There are times where you're selfish, right? And you want to have certain freedoms or time or, something that you want for yourself that, that's what happens, right? You have kids and you're just like, your whole existence completely shifts. It just, everything is about them. If you're what I think a caring, good parent,
if you give a shit.
If you want to be a good parent, like things shift. And so that happened. And I basically, now what the shitty part is I love my kids and I'll do anything for them. And I love them so much now that they're starting to get older and they don't really want to spend as much time with me. Now I'm kind of like, what the fuck do I do with my life? Right. Cause my whole existence was, before they were around, was grow weed, go see celebrities and get into like the rooms and the places that are really interesting.
It was always focused. So there was always the same kind of like, be in as many places as possible. It's self-feeding. I got to do this and I got to do this. It's always work oriented. And then you get a family and then it's like everything is, I have to do whatever I can to provide whatever is needed here.
Yeah, it was
so
like
the shift is different.
Yeah, all I cared about was like, honing my craft and
Mhm.
showing people how good I was at that craft. Whether it was growing the weed or if it was when I started to really get serious about music,
Mhm.
the types of like beats that I would make with other producers and musicians. And
Mhm.
so we were just focused on the craft. Then you have kids and it's like, okay, you focus on your craft for what you need to do, but you start to slowly realize that you're like, I want to spend all my time with my kids.
Mhm.
And so you start, you don't hang out with your friends as much. You're spending time with your kids. You don't see that friend that you used to see once a week. You don't see them maybe once a month or
Mhm.
once every 6 months, or it just, as you go older and your kids get older, they need more time and you're having more fun with them and just being a part of their life. And you just know that you only get these opportunities once in their life to be a part of these things. Like my 14-year-old, she has a dance tomorrow night, and like just like seeing how excited she is to wear this dress that she found,
Mhm.
and like her first pair of high heels,
Mhm.
they're all like gold glittery crazy, you know what I mean, like but she is so happy, and like to see her so happy, to be excited about it is what makes me happy now
Mhm.
in life. And the things where you used to be happy about, like, oh, I would go to this place and kind of impress people with how good this jar of weed was, seemed just not as important.
Yeah.
I still get from my own personal thing, I still really enjoy that. It's not that it's not
But
valued.
it's not the same as your offspring
No,
flopping around uncomfortably in their fucking first pair of, those are big moments. And
Yeah,
now with those moments being less because now they want to be more independent, they were growing up, especially 18, leave when they're going to leave, all that
Yeah.
stuff. Then you're like, well, going back seems silly too.
Yeah. So now like I find myself like wanting to go back to college and actually finish and get my degree.
Mhm.
Like I kind of regret, squandering that opportunity and not like
Get that 1.5 up,
Yeah.
Wait, let me try it again real quick.
Yeah. So I mean, basically, if you don't maintain a 2.0, you're out anyway.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I'm not even going to class, and I'm like, signing.
You can't fire me. I quit.
Yeah, exactly. I'm out. But yeah, it's like I want to go back and finish that, get my bachelor's degree and maybe a master's degree, and now I know what I would want to do.
Mhm.
I'm like, oh, I want to do, seriously learn more about the science behind the plant, botany and horticulture,
Mhm.
like deep backgrounds in that, and become, as educated as I can in the scientific side of it, versus everything I've ever done up till now is really just kind of an art form to me,
Mhm.
because it's all this, every decision I've ever made in the grow room was based upon what I thought in my head as an experiment was going to result the better product.
Mhm.
And over time, yeah, I got better and better and better at that gut intuition of the plant wants
It was
this.
jazz, baby.
Yeah.
It was jazz.
I mean,
Let's try this. You're improvising.
Yeah.
I mean, calculated improvisation, but that's what jazz is.
Yeah,
But
it's a lot of trial error. And one of the things that I, kind of got a chuckle at when we got into the testing and stuff like
Mhm.
that was like when we started to test our nutrients. I didn't know anything about plant nutrient or anything like that, but I had developed this recipe of what I thought was the best that the plant liked
Mhm.
by how I tried these different products. And when we sent that in for testing, like the people were like, this is a really well-balanced food formula. Like this is basically right in every way. And little nuances of things that were subtle, they were like, wow, even that too is in the right place and
Mhm.
the right levels, and the percentages and quantities we were giving the plants were correct. So I was like, that was really like reaffirming in the fact that it was like, wow.
Yeah, you were riffing through it and being scientifically accurate for what it actually needed. Yeah. I mean, I think that
we were good at the bro science. That's what we call it. It was like in our culture is like, it's called like bro science, because we were like, none of us are really educated scientists. So it was all just like my buddy did this and it worked really well. And you're like, oh, I'll try that and see what happens. And you're like, that does not work.
It does not work. Yeah.
And if it's not repeatable and all these things. So it's like you were acting like kind of, mid-level scientists in the way we approach things to
sure,
be good at it.
It's basically what you're doing. The scientific method.
Yeah.
You're like, I have this idea, and then I have to test it over and over and over again with all these different variables and variants, and then to get to the thing. I mean, yeah, that's basically we're just being
yeah. I mean,
unscholarly educated, but still doing the scientific process.
Yeah. So now I'm like, I want to go back and get the education and be like, what are all these scientists that have got it down to the numbers? What have they proven in this way? And then like just kind of put both those skill sets together just to try to maybe learn something new or be better or understand why what I do works in a deeper way, so that I can just check those boxes off. And
well, then I feel like that's also when you get to be like, again, calculated creative.
Yeah.
You can go, okay, well, now that I understand all of the workings of how it works, the same thing, you can't really completely upgrade an engine if you don't know how all the parts work.
Yeah.
You could be like, oh, this thing looks better than this thing. I'll put this, you could fumble through it. People tinker all the time.
Yeah.
But that's the difference between tinkering and fucking building.
Yeah.
Because then you could do it on purpose and waste a lot less time with the trial and error part.
Yeah. If you want to be the best at it, it's like, okay, you can only kind of reach so far and hit a plateau with what you know.
Yeah.
And if you don't start learning things that are new and pushing yourself to these new ideas, then you're going to hit a plateau that, I don't know where to go from here or how to get to the next level, and some people, I've gotten very far in life with that, but the next step is that for me. So I'm looking forward to going back to school.
Hell yeah.
Like I'm going to be this old guy in the class. Like, like all these kids are going to be like 19 and I'm going to be in my 40s and I'm going to feel like,
it's going to be fun.
I'm going to be Pierce from Community, And
I was thinking of the that Drew Barrett, the Never Been Kissed or whatever. Where she's like a undercover journalist or some shit. But yeah, Pierce is a way better example.
My oldest daughter, she's 18 and she's getting acceptance letters from different colleges right now, and I'm like, how awesome it'd be if like I go to school with her like Rodney Dangerfield and his, she'll probably hate me if I ever did that. So, but that's.
Dad, you have to act like I don't know you, okay?
Yeah, totally.
It's definitely gonna be that.
Yeah, it's very hard. My daughter, she's got her first boyfriend, and you're like, it's crazy. Yeah, it's just they're really good kids. I mean, I'm so blessed. I got an amazing wife and great kids. They're very smart. They're very well educated, way smarter and students that I ever was. And it's just really cool to see like that whole aspect of going through life in that way. And as a dad and stuff, like I'm definitely, the cliched girl dad, that they came up with this title now. And it's like, when I leave here today, I'll pick up my daughter from school and I'm going to take her to get her haircut so that she looks all cute for the dance tomorrow. So
nice.
Yeah.
That's fun. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Daddy-daughter date.
Yeah.
I still take my dad on daddy-daughter dates as well and take him out.
Yeah.
It's good.
I just I don't know what I'm going to do when they're not in the house. Like they, I'm going to have that,
the empty nest thing.
Yeah. The empty nest, definitely is already.
I don't even know what I do now. What do I do now?
Yeah.
I don't even know.
I started getting into, the comedy because I love comedy. I watch comedy shows all the time. I watch comedians all the time. And then kind of, linking up with Ron and getting into meet, your guys' circle and
Ron Funches.
Yeah. And Gabe, and you and Blair is like, I kind of got like a little peek into it and I was like, okay, I don't think I can do stand-up comedy because that's a different muscle. Like you kind of gotta
That would be very Rodney Dangerfield if you're like, if I'm in my early 40s, I think I'm going to start doing stand-up now.
The closest I kind of got to it was I got thrown on the stage. I thought I was going to be on a panel.
Mm-hmm.
Like this group invited me down to this thing. And they're like, we're going to have, you'll talk about, stuff in the industry and some stories or, just we'll answer some questions. And I got there and they're like, you all set? You're all ready? Got everything ready? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, they're like, yeah, you're gonna be up there for like 15 minutes. You tell your.
You just got thrown into it.
Yeah, so I did that a few years ago, and I've never been scared to be on stage or perform or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But being funny is a different thing, So I was just telling a story that was a natural story, and it started to get a few laughs, and I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of fun. This is cool. But
this is how they get you.
Yeah,
this is how we get you.
Yeah, you start to get that, whatever that endorphin kicks in or something from when people
you get dopamine.
You get dopamine. Yeah, so I got a little taste of it there, but I was like, I don't know how to write comedy. I don't know how to. I can tell stories, and some of these stories might be funny, and that might be an angle I could go at it, but. I decided to start taking some like improv classes at like the Groundlings and UCB Upright.
You were saying your daughter is she's doing theater too, right?
And yeah, so my youngest, she's just like a quadruple threat. She's a great dancer, singer, piano player, and actress, and she's fearless. So she goes off her plays, and she's majority of the time she's the lead. Like
She's killing it.
Yeah, she's Matilda and Matilda. She's Wednesday and Wednesday. She was Mary Poppins and Mary Poppins. She was just Belle in Beauty and the Beast. And she's just a natural at it. She will learn all the lines. She'll learn 8-9 different songs that she has to sing in the play, and she'll go up there and she's got a great voice and she's just super talented. And so I'm stoked on that. Super proud dad.
It sucks when you have cool kids and your cool kids are like, all right, Dad, I think I might be too cool for you.
Yeah. They're definitely way cooler than I am, and I thought I would be the cool dad, but nah, So I've been doing the UCB stuff, and I've been like doing the skits and stuff like that with a few buddies from the classes, and having a lot of fun. Kind of getting back to being childish. I feel like I was always so serious and like.
Oh yeah, John Cleese calls it the art of play.
Yeah, so it's a lot of fun. It's like this getting back to letting go of, being embarrassed or anything of anything. So it's like I almost feel like when I go up on stage and I do an improv thing, and if I bomb, I'm almost like that was the funniest part is that I completely bombed. I'm totally happy with that, or if you get really lucky and you get into a improv scenario where, you got a few lines that came to your head that were really clever and everybody's laughing. You're like, okay, cool.
I think any creative person should take an improv class. Truly, just to for the simple fact of you having to think so fast, you don't care about being embarrassed. You just have to give an answer right now.
Yeah.
And whether that answer is right or wrong, it doesn't matter. It is the correct answer at this moment.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a great, because there's a lot of, for folks that don't know, there's a lot of tumultuous between improvisers and stand-up comedians, and I've never felt that way. I think both of them have incredibly valuable assets, like invaluable. That like everyone should have these kind of skills, and so I definitely, if you have an improv class near you, I definitely think you should take it. It's just fun, and it reminds you how to have fun. Especially maybe you had a fucking rough year. I don't fucking know what you went to. It's a silly way to remember how to have fun.
I agree. It's like for me, things have been so serious and so focused for so many years that when I went and did it, I realized that value of like, oh, like this is really fun in the sense that like people are very funny.
Yeah.
Whether they are saying clever things or whether they're bombing, it's just funny all around. And I always just love comedy, and being able to go do that once or twice a week, like it's definitely like therapy. in some form of like
because it's a mental vacation. This is a couple hours where you literally don't have to think about anything you have to do. You have to think right now about this.
Yeah.
It's like forces people to be present. Highly recommend an improv class.
Yeah, I say the same thing. There's so many people I'll talk to about, and they're like, I could never go up there and do that. And I'm like, they're too scared or like embarrassed of whatever might happen. You're just like, dude, no one's gonna be thinking about it later that night. Like it's.
But if they do think about it, you would be providing joy for someone else.
Yeah.
And again, like being playful provided that. I don't know. Either way, to me, I mean, I'm I drink so much of the Kool-Aid.
Yeah,
I'm in it, but but I still think it's rad. So I'm happy for you that you're doing stuff that's fun and playful. It's good.
Yeah, I need it. I need it. And it's like, in my 40s, I'm like, am I going to go back to the studio and start working with kids in their 20s on hip hop tracks again? I just probably not. Like, so for me, it seems like that side of the entertainment is what I like and am more interested in. And, maybe I can, start to understand how to write in that setting in a better way. And, because you come up with ideas that are fun and funny, but then you have people that are just like brilliant writers that are just masters at this craft. And, you're like, oh, this is my favorite show. You're like, oh, what's that? You're like, oh, The Office. You're like, oh yeah, I love that show. And you're like, oh, what other shows? You're like, Brooklyn Nine-Nine. You're like, oh, I like this other show, Community and Parks and Rec. And you're like, that so-and-so wrote all three of those shows, you're like,
turns out I like this person.
Yeah. And you're like, and then you start to study that person as a writer and you're like, wow, like he wrote that too. And that too. And you're like, this is like one of the funniest people probably on the planet, like, or that
person's got a cool brain, man.
Yeah. So those certain writers are just incredible. And then it's the same thing with comedians too. Everybody kind of gravitates to a certain style of comedian that really connects with them, like, so, and then I'm assuming most of those comedians, that you connect with, they do most of their writing, or maybe they have like a partner.
Some of them.
That's why I said assuming.
Yeah. Some of them. I get that and I guess when you're operating, when you get to a certain point, there's just only so much a brain can generate.
Yeah.
So like if you're. Oh, and I'm not talking about anyone specifically, but like just if you're a comedian who's already producing a show, on a show, writing a show, and then you get asked to host the Oscars, you have to, like, or you asked to host this thing, you get write all the jokes for that. Like I imagine people asked to write the roast of fucking Tom Brady or whatever. You're gonna hire people to help you write that.
Yeah, I hope that those people that do that, they just have like this group of people they've naturally coalesced with. Is what my hope is in that scenario. Now, maybe they are just, you would know better if they're just like, oh, I'm hiring that guy because he's funny and I know he's a good writer. But I always hope that it's like, it's just normally like these 3 or 4 guys that are in a room that are like already friends and are good writers together, or
sometimes came just hired.
or come up together.
If you're also doing all that shit, you're not going to be able to pay attention to who is up and coming and all that shit, so I think it all just ends up being word of mouth. Like that's where it all comes back to it. Do you have anything you want to plug? Tell people about tell everyone how many states are you in now?
Well, right now it's California. We're launching in New Jersey in a few weeks, so come May, we'll be in Jersey.
That's exciting.
We'll be in Switzerland by the end of the year.
International, baby.
Yeah. So we
Brett worldwide.
Yeah, we were in Michigan, but the deal we had there fell apart. So there was there's a lot of hard things to manage in cannabis. So we were in Arizona for about a year and a half.
Weren't you going to PA too? I think?
That's supposed to happen still. We're in negotiation with all that stuff. Certain groups, you get really close to the finish line with something and then, everything falls through.
Changes.
Falls through, yeah. It's really hard and to be spread out so thin across the state. So you have to find really good partners that you can work with and trust, and that's the trust part is a huge part of it. It's definitely always a challenge.
Yeah.
It's always a challenge, you know? So, yeah, I mean, we just, we're launching a new brand called WonderBrett X. We just put that out. It's got vapes and a whole new flower lineup of different new strains that are separate from the original WonderBrett, you know, menu.
These guys.
Yep.
Pink Picasso, actually one of my favorites of all time.
The
for
Black
sure.
Orchid. Yeah.
Black Orchid. Sorry,
So,
go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean,
distracted.
no, those are the things we're working on right now, and just trying to stay true to the game. You know, just keep our quality consistent and stand out through letting the product speak for itself. But you still have to, you know, come up with cool packaging and ideas like that, because there's just a flood of people in this industry now where, you know, when I first got into it, it was like only the people that were already kind of in it and the purists that had been, you know, battling from, you know, the late 90s to the, you know, 2015, or actually 2018 is when kind of medical ended and it became rec. Those are the people that were in it, like the true believers in that sense. And then you started to get all of this outside influence and money and people coming in that were in it for the business side of it, thinking that this is going to be like, you know, the ground floor of the tobacco industry or the alcohol industry. And
the Tesla effect, where somebody just bought something that was cool and now they're trying to, I get what you're saying.
Yeah. So we're, you know, in these different cycles. And I think that that's the phase that we've been in. And I think that phase is starting to fade out as things become more of a struggle. It's only the truest people that love this are going to stick to it when they're, you know, you're not making money and it's the hard times. And it's like most people that just got it in for the money. If they're losing money and they're going through hard times, they normally cut and run and jump into the next thing. They're like, I'm not in weed anymore. Now I do AI tech stuff or NFT parties or whatever, you know, like something that they feel is, you know, that they're going to make a bunch of money on or whatever. So, that's, you know, that's where we're at.
WonderBrett X. Cool. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah,
I hope you had a fun. I had a fun chat. I hope
did.
You did too.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for listening. Make sure you like and subscribe and tell folks about us. Patreon.com/NoSirPod. If you want to throw cash, I appreciate you. I adore you. And thanks.
Don't be cheap. Throw that money.
Yeah.
Send it.
Cash.